The city of Geneva may seem more French than Swiss. Not surprising, since this corner of Switzerland is almost completely surrounded by France. While it may be surprising that a centre for world banking and diplomacy would have so many attractions for tourists, you'll find plenty of things to do in Geneva. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 rated attractions and things to do in Geneva. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more awesome travel guides, and make sure you hit the notification bell so that you know when we publish a new video. So now, let's cut to the chase. And at 10, Monument de la Réformation and Parc de Bastions. Through a pillared gateway southwest of Geneva's Hôtel de Ville, the Promenade de la Traille is lined with chestnut trees and offers views of Mont and the Jura. Against the wall under the promenade in the beautiful Parc de Bastions stands the Reformation monument, erected in 1917 in recognition of Geneva's leadership in the Protestant Reformation. In the middle are figures of John Calvin, Guillaume Farel, Théodore de Bèze and John Knox, prominent leaders of that movement. These are flanked by those of the statesmen who promoted the cause of reforming the church, along with bas-relief scenes from the history of the Calvinist movement. At the ends are memorials to Luther and Zwingli. At 9, explore the past at the Musée d'Art et d'Histoire. One of Switzerland's 3 largest museums, Geneva's Musée d'Art et d'Histoire owes its exceptional collections to the merger of several regional museums, with added donations from private collectors. The result covers the fields of applied and fine art and archaeology, with a collection of weapons, Greek and Roman art treasures, Middle Eastern and Eastern Mediterranean antiquities, Roman and Etruscan pottery, and Egyptian funerary art. Archaeological finds and antiquities from Geneva and the surrounding area date back to the Paleolithic and the Iron Ages, extending through Roman and Gallo-Roman times to the Middle Ages. Various arts from Gothic and Renaissance periods are also displayed. The fine art galleries include Italian, Flemish and the Swabian Old Masters and works by Flemish, Dutch and French artists of the 16th to 18th centuries. Paintings by Geneva artists of the 18th and 19th centuries complete the collections. Next up at 8, day trip to Chamonix and Mont Blanc. You can add another country to your travels on a day trip to the alpine resort of Chamonix and Europe's tallest peak, Mont Blanc. Chamonix is best known as a chic French ski resort, but the rest of the year it's also a centre for climbers and hikers, as well as tourists. Sightseeing opportunities in Chamonix Mont Blanc abound, whether you want to do a little climbing or walk on more gentle trails across alpine pastures. You can ride one of several gondola lifts for even higher views, or ride the tramway to the Nid d'Anglais at 2,372 metres. A walking path leads from here to the Bionnassay Glacier. A historic red cog railway will take you from Chamonix to Montenvers, where you can see the famous Mer de Glace Glacier. Next up at 7, Palais des Nations. The large complex of marble buildings that make up the Palais des Nations is the European headquarters of the United Nations, a position it assumed after the demise of the League of Nations, whose world headquarters was here. As such, it has become a centre of world diplomacy, the largest UN centre after New York, with upwards of 25,000 delegates passing through annually. On a guided tour, you can learn about the work carried on here and see the artworks and interiors donated by countries all over the world. The Assembly Hall, seating more than 2,000, is used for meetings of the United Nations and its associated organisations. From its lobby is a beautiful view of the Alps. The 2 heavily gilded bronze doors at the ends were brought back from Italy by Napoleon and presented to the League of Nations by Clemenceau. The wall and ceiling painting in sepia on gold by J.M. Serre in the smaller council chamber was a gift from Spain, completed in 1936, showing themes of technical, social and medical progress and world peace. In the antechamber are 3 bas-reliefs by Eric Gill, inspired by Michelangelo. The library contains more than 1 million print items, as well as electronic journals and books. Between the main wings is the Cour d'Honneur, a spacious terrace merging into the park, with a magnificent view of the lake and the Alps. In the middle is a bronze armillary sphere with gilded signs of the zodiac by American sculptor Paul Manship. Next up, at 6, Jardin Botanique. Southeast of the Ariana, between the Avenue de la Paix and the Chemin de l'Impératrice, you'll find Geneva's Botanic Garden, established in 1902 to replace a smaller one in the Parc des Bastions. Its greenhouses, gardens and conservatory cover about 28 hectares and feature more than 12,000 species of plants and trees. An alpine garden shows plants from Switzerland's high elevations, and the herbarium is one of the largest in the world, with 6 million examples. That's quite a few then. A small animal area includes fallow deer and other wildlife, a popular place to visit for families. At 5, Place du Bourg-de-Four. In the heart of Geneva's Old Town, near the Temple de Saint-Pierre, you'll find the popular Place du Bourg-de-Four. Possibly the oldest square in the city, and certainly its most charming and atmospheric, it is on the site of the Roman Forum and held an important market from the 9th century onward. In the 16th century, exiled Protestants found shelter and refuge here. Today, tourists and locals find refuge in its cafes and restaurants, many of which spill out onto the pavement in good weather. Along with an 18th century fountain, a statue, Clementine by Heinz Schwarz, stands in the square. The Palais de Justice, which has housed the law courts since 1860, was built as a convent in the early 1700s. At 4, stroll through the Jardin Anglais and Parc de la Grange. On the south side of the lake, known as the Rive Gauche, the Promenade du Lac runs east from the Pont du Mont Blanc, flanked by the Jardin Anglais, where you will see the large flower clock, almost as emblematic of the city as the Jet d'Eau. The clock, set on a slight slope for easier viewing, changes with the seasonal blooming plants that form its colourful face. Also in the park is the Monument National, with allegorical figures of Helvetia and Geneva, commemorating Geneva's entry into the Swiss Confederation in 1814. Along the south lake shore are the landscaped Parc de la Grange, with a beautiful rose garden, and the Parc des Eaux Vives, with stately trees and flower beds. At 3, it's the Temple de Saint-Pierre. Dating back to 1150 as the Cathedral of Saint-Pierre, the Romanesque church at the highest point of Geneva's Old Town features some Gothic elements. During the Protestant Reformation, in which Geneva played an important role, the name was changed to Temple de Saint-Pierre and it became a Protestant church. John Calvin preached sermons here from 1536 to 1564, and his followers stripped out the altars, paintings and statuary, leaving only the carved capitals and the stained glass from its original decoration. The two principal towers, dating from the 13th century, were never completed. You can climb to the top for beautiful views of the lake and town, and a corridor connecting the two towers makes it possible to ascend both without having to return to ground level. The metal spire over the crossing was built in 1895, replacing a tower destroyed by fire in the 15th century. The original west front and doorway were replaced in 1749 to 56 by a portico of 6 Corinthian columns, which is not at all harmonious with the building's architecture, but doesn't detract from the unity of the somewhat austere interior. The galleried nave, with the aisles separated by massive clustered piers, ends in the 12th century choir and semicircular apse. The transepts are short and narrow. Be sure to notice the late Romanesque and early Gothic capitals in the nave, aisles, choir and transepts for their workmanship and the variety of their themes. The stained glass windows are copies of the 15th century originals, now in the Musée d'Art et d'Histoire. Against the aisle walls, the fifth bay holds late Gothic choir stalls with delicate carving from the destroyed Chapelle des Florentines. In front of the last pillar of the north aisle is a triangular chair said to have been used by John Calvin. Adjoining the southwest corner is a Chapelle des Machabées from 1406, a superb example of high Gothic religious architecture with beautiful window traceries. Archaeological excavations below the church reveal an extensive underground labyrinth from the early Christian settlement on the hill, including Roman mosaics and 2 4th century Christian sanctuaries. At 2 now, Jet d'Eau. Beside the Jetée des Eaux Vives, the breakwater enclosing Geneva's harbour, a mighty jet of water soars straight up from the lake surface in a 145-metre plume. This water jet has become the symbol of Geneva and is its most famous landmark. A powerful pump propels the water at a rate of about 500 litres a second, which accounts for the height it reaches. A good viewpoint is from the Bain des Paquis, a favourite spot for locals to swim, enjoy a sauna or have a bite in a cafe. And finally, at number 1, see Lake Geneva by boat. The lake is unquestionably the star of Geneva's show. It is the background for many of the loveliest city views and itself has the unmatched backdrop of snow-covered Alps. You can get from one part of the city to another on its Mouettes Genevoises, motor launches that have shuttled between lakeside quays since 1897. Or you can explore the lake on one of the regular boats that connect Geneva with Lausanne, Montreux and other lakeside towns, some of the most popular places to visit near Geneva. For a taste of lake travel of long ago, opt for a cruise on one of the historic paddle steamers, one of the most romantic things to do for couples. To get even closer to the lake, you can rent a paddleboard and take to the water. Maybe not today. And there you have the top 10 rated attractions and things to do in Geneva. Did you like what you saw? Let us know in the comments down below. Share this video with your friends and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fantastic travel guides. See you next time.